A Believer's Triumphant Life with Joel Maurice Eagle. Speaking life to your world and always inspiring your faith.
Now, prayer is one subject that interests heaven and yet highly misunderstood and misdefined by many. Now, spiritual prayer involves three entities and activities. 1. It involves God, which is your fellowship and communion with Him. 2. It involves you because during prayer you are strengthened, edified, and built up. And 3. It involves external entities, which include interceding for other people, commanding and judging evil powers, and speaking change to situations and things that you desire to be altered. Now, Jesus taught in Luke 18 and verse 1 that men ought to pray always and not to faint. Now, the key word in this passage of scriptures is always. When you shift gears from praying sometimes or once in a while to always, you will never be faint, grow weary, or be a spiritual weakling. Because through spiritual prayer, we draw supernatural strength from God's Spirit. And that's what eliminates the failing and fainting proclivity of the flesh and general subconscious carnality of life. No wonder King David said in Proverbs 24 and verse 10, "If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small." If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. The Message Bible version puts it this way: if you fall to pieces in a crisis, there wasn't much to you in the first place. The solution to your crisis or adversity is supernatural strength. And the portal of supernatural strength is consistent or constant prayer. Your heart, which is your spirit and soul combined together, is God's battery that needs to be charged and recharged just like any other device. The difference is that your charge from God's power source is transmitted to your heart and cumulative through extensive spiritual prayer. Again, this is why Jesus emphasized in Luke 18 and verse 1 that men ought to always pray, and not to faint, because there are certain things that will never change or shift until a certain intensity and amount of prayer is lifted up in the spirit. My. James 5 and verse 16 says, "The earnest, heartfelt, and continued prayer of a righteous man makes tremendous power available, dynamic in its working." Earnest prayer that avails much consists of two elements. 1. It must be heartfelt or passionate. And 2. It must be continued or consistent. How bad do you want the change or shift? How determined are you? Are you really passionate about your prayer point or expectations? The degree of your passion will determine the level of your consistency, continuity, or staying power, even when there seems to be not a sign of any change or substantial progress. Above anything and everything concerning prayer, you must develop and nurture passion and consistency. This is the discipline of unfailing prayer, which generates and compounds tremendous power, very dynamic in nature and fit for any task. Most people don't enjoy or maximize spiritual prayer because their walk with God is religious and not realistic, which in turn incapacitates their understanding and their revelatory ability concerning the dynamics of prayer. Prayer never fails. It's men that fail to pray. An attack on your prayer life is a cataclysmic and lethal attack. It's an attack on your entire life. Your prayer life is a reflection of your relationship with the Holy Spirit. The more intimate your relationship and communion, the more intense and impactful your prayer life. When you understand the implication of earnest prayer availing tremendous power, you will work the daylights out of prayer. Ephesians 3 and verse 20 says, "Now to Him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us." Listen, it's according to that power, that dunamis, that you avail by prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not automatic. It's by your deliberate participation and engagement. It's pride to ignore this and monumental laziness to neglect this truth. With this in mind, if you will work the daylights out of prayer, the power availed will work the daylights out of all your ventures to your benefit. Joel Maurice Eagle, love you.